Welcome here and now. We'll begin chanting Om together one time, like washing your hands. Wash the mind. Inhale deeply. Be still. Look up. Bring aliveness into your body, into your spine. Lengthen your spine. Fill your body with your breath, your cells, your organs, your belly, your heart. Observe your breathing, your rhythm. Make a beautiful rhythm, smooth, connected, alive. Bring your mind inside all the time, throwing your mind around outside. Like a fishing rod, pull it back in. Bring your mind inside. Back to the center of your eyes, the center of your ears, the center of your nose, the center of your brain. Life is a storm, like a tornado, like a hurricane. Our mind is like a storm, constantly moving, fighting with itself and with everything, never stops. Our emotions like a storm, reaction, expectation, disappointment, desire, frustration, anxiety, depression, constant tension. And body also is a storm, a pain, and digestion and sleeping and everything. At the center of the storm, the eye of the storm, is a stillness. So find the center of the mind. Everything has a center. It's not a concept or explanation, it's an experience. The center is in order to tune your instrument, you have to be in the center, centered. And so if you have an instrument, for sure you have to tune it, because it's normal. You have a guitar, you don't even play the guitar. It's sitting there on the wall. You pick it up next time, it's out of tune. You don't even have to touch it. Just the hot and cold and time and everything, the instrument goes out of tune. The flute, it goes out of tune. The piano goes out of tune. The car goes out of tune. The phone goes out of tune. The tennis racket goes out of tune. You have to restring it. It loses its tension. It loses the tuning, the tension, the pressure is out of balance. So in the same way, you have to tune your instrument every day. Or you can be out of tune. Or you can be just unconscious, whether you're in tune or out of tune. Either the musical instrument is in tune or out of tune. There's only these two options. Either we know it's in tune or we don't know. I know, is it out of tune or in tune? I don't know. So, the recommendation is to dedicate a little bit of time and energy to invest your time and energy, your love, into your own garden, into yourself. We spend so much time worrying about the surface, our clothing, our face, our teeth, everything on the surface. We have time for that. But for the essence, for the core, we have no time for that. We give no importance to that. So, every day, take a little bit of time and energy. The recommendation we make is 2%. 2% means 30 minutes. 24 hours is 100%. And so, you can dedicate even 2% to water the garden, to clean the soil, to pick the dead flowers off. At first it might seem like a chore, but really it's such a gift, so beautiful to be in the garden, to be with life, to be with yourself. We never have a real time with ourselves. Always with others or thinking about how we look to others. Even within ourselves, we're continually judging and pushing. So no time to be in love with yourself. In love with yourself doesn't mean giving kisses and singing songs. It just means to be with yourself, to flow with yourself, to accept yourself without having to explain or justify. Now, very difficult because we're always posing. In our mind too, like Instagram pose, like, we're living in these prefabricated stories. So this time is time you can be real, you can be yourself. In addition, you're charging, awakening the life, your cells and organs and glands and biochemistry and all of this, your breath, your inspiration, your heart, you're awakening your eyes and ears and nose and mouth. So, you know what it feels like to be sleeping or sleepy or groggy, and what it feels like to feel alive and awake. So, the goal is to cultivate that aliveness and awakeness in the daily life, in relation to the mundane moment, the little moment. So, main training is not training the mind, training the willpower. In order to be stable and to balance the pressure, we need the willpower. It means not giving up or avoiding or distracting like this. Because our willpower is shaky, then very difficult for the mind to function and the body to function. So what we're doing in these yoga postures is not training the body, but training your willpower. Don't give up, don't react, don't move, don't think. Every moment we're running away, distracting ourselves. So the practice is don't move, don't distract, don't know. Just be present. When we can train ourselves to be present in your nervous system, in your breathing, in your focus, then that will carry over into all of life. And it's not about, doing a downward dog in the supermarket or something. The yoga is this rhythm of being, this deep aliveness and presence. That's what we carry in the life. And so that's why we recommend, like a sports player, if you play a sport, then you have to practice. If you play a musical instrument, also you need to train, you need to maintain, stay in shape. If someone invites you to play like football or ultimate frisbee, and you go to the park, but you're out of shape, and you get on and you start to play, very quickly, within a few minutes, what should be fun turns into torture, painful. You get cramps, your body hurts, your headache, you feel bad. So at the same time, people are playing the same game and they're laughing and smiling and they're getting a rush of endorphins and hormones, everything. So what's the difference? Only one difference: out of shape. So to be in shape is not just a physical, but emotionally in shape. We must stay mentally in shape also, physically, emotionally, and mentally. Then life, instead of being a struggle, a torture, becomes a celebration, an adventure, a dance. So it's football, you only play a couple hours, a week? At professional level, you're playing more, maybe a few hours a day. But your daily life, you're playing 24 hours a day. This game, this sport of life, 24 hours. So any improvement, any training we can make, how to breathe, how to position, for sure there's proper way, lungs and the spine and the hips, everything. And it would make sense if we're not in the proper position and our lungs and our nervous system and our organs are all compacted and contracted chronically over extended periods of time, then it's going to cause all kinds of disturbances, dis-ease. So who's responsible for maintaining your garden? We can ignore it, but it remains. Then we must take responsibility. So every day we wash our hair, we comb our hair, we wash our skin, we put the chemicals on our clothing that's made of chemicals. But we're not taking the time to clean our blood and organs and cells. We're not taking the time to clean our hearts or minds, and then we wonder why we don't feel well. Imagine wearing the same dirty clothes for months and months, never wash them, never take them off. Sleeping in a dirty bed. How can you feel at home? So, daily training. Training, it's awakening. Alive. Like you water the garden knows how to grow. The garden is alive. The garden is intelligent. You are a garden. You're alive like the garden. Every moment growing. Every moment infinite processes. You can never imagine, fathom, even one tiny speck of what's going on at a molecular, cellular level. Even biologically, we have no idea. I call this myself. This is myself, me, this body. What do I know about this body? Really, what do I know? I have some abstract ideas about, this is an arm, and there's some bones and things. What's happening this very moment in my arm right now? I have no idea. Even if I studied for 100 years, I would still not know in this moment what's going on. I have some abstract maps, but if we're honest, that which I call myself, this is myself, I have no idea what it is, where it came from, how it's functioning. In this moment, even abstractly, very little. We know so little. So how can we know anything outside of ourselves? We don't know ourselves. We don't know our minds. How can we understand other people or the past? So we have to see that no matter how many words or ideas, you never find the answer. Imagine how many books in all the universities of the world, and still nothing is ever concluded. So the mind is not the correct instrument to know the truth. Mind is useful for organizing things. But the real knowing is deeper than mind, not with the words and language and causation and all of this. So, if we give value to this awareness and presence, right, it's not that we stop thinking, it's that instead we rest in awareness. When you rest in awareness, the thinking goes away by itself. You want to stop thinking, what will you replace the thinking with? Doing nothing? What is that? What does that mean? It's just a fantasy. You quit the job. Now what? The same tension. So, problem is thinking. Problem is not the outside world. Problem is thinking. So, we don't need to edit the thinking, just less of it. When we're continually thinking, it keeps us from being. Instead of naturally being, we're all the time reading the script and going back and forth. So many. So, in the state of not thinking or awareness, very naturally, you're in the flow, creative. Like a sports player in the game, not thinking. The thinking comes in the training. No, the training preparation. But then in the game, you drop it, and you're in the flow. So this is what we're training, how to be in the flow. In the flow is not with thinking. Peace is not with thinking. Love is not with thinking. Thinking always brings us far away from peace. Thinking always brings us far away from love. Then we start to cut it into little pieces. We massacre that which is and create some abstract idea and then cut it into pieces. So, in this moment, when the thoughts subside, when the pressure subsides, for one split second, no thinking, then immediately you experience the true peace, true happiness. It's a kind of fullness. Like you eat the food, then you're full. So, in the same way, to be full means not actively desiring something else. All the time we want something, we want to get away from something. So many things. So that keeps a certain pressure. But if we can balance temporarily that pressure, then we experience immediately peace. And if we drink from the flower of peace every day, the real peace, real love, not the words and concepts, that's the ultimate nourishment. That's what the birds are sucking from the flower, this nectar, this honey. It's not information in the newspaper, all this fear and everything. It's that the vibration, the rhythm of peace or joy that comes in this state of being present. Being present is only possible with not thinking. Thinking always brings you into the past. And I can assure you that less thinking, your thinking will become so much more powerful and efficient and clear. The same, less talking, your words will become stronger, sharper. Overthinking is simply a bad habit. It's like the car is out of rhythm, and it keeps going in that rhythm, and everybody's car is out of rhythm. It's only a habit. So we simply have to learn and then reinforce the habit of deep presence. Not the surface, not just superficial. Being without phones here is very freeing. How can we learn to live with our devices in the real life without allowing them to take over our lives? Gosh. I mean, it's purposefully addictive in a very dehumanizing way, turning us into consumers, giving us this illusion of, it's like they used to airbrush some pictures in the magazine. Now all of life is airbrushed. And we're living some pseudo-reality. It's tricky. The whole world is going this direction. So you can swim against the current. What to do, no? How to use heroin mindfully. It's a biochemistry, no? And now it's culture. And it's, we're becoming dependent on it for very basic things also. So. No, I don't have any suggestion. Only we have to see. We have to see it. We have to observe it. You see, it's been only 3 days, not 3 full days, like 2 full days. Two full days, 48 hours. And it's like that, it's gone. It's lighter, I'm sure, for most people. It's like, what a relief. Even though when coming in, it's like, oh my God, how am I going to do it? But actually, when we're engaged and learning and connected and alive, then it's. But if you were, say, to go to the beach alone, right, would it be that easy to put it away and take it down or not? It could be very different. No, so I think the main takeaway is community, real community. If possible, to live in community also. No, because this togetherness is what makes life meaningful, and what helps us to find our way by having others. Then we're able to get that feedback and to learn from one another. And this is greatly lacking in the whole life journey. So much stress and so much work. For me, recently, I see that the one major issue is we're living in a false time. 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, this work week, consumer week, then the weekend, and then the week, and then holiday. This is false time. All the rest of creation is in the real time, the lunar cycle. At the level, molecular level, everything is moving in function of the one timing. And then now we have the pseudo timing. And with electricity and all of this, then so as a result, we're completely out of rhythm and cycle with natural time. And as a result, our whole biorhythm, and all of our activities and functioning, understanding of life is out of rhythm, disconnected. And so the phone is part of that. But it's not a question of like revolting or ignoring or something. It's that this is the times, right? These times, this is what we call the Dark Ages. No, many people think that the Dark Ages was like 1,000 years ago, like at the time of the pest and this kind of thing. But actually, what the yogis and the sages say is now we're at the heart of the Dark Ages. Everything looks so beautiful and it's so empty, so rotten. Everything, the family, the house, the forest, everything is lying and cheating. Government and religious people and everything. Where do we have some model of health, some model of what it is to be healthy. So, knowing that, this is a great opportunity, because in this time, even a drop of effort, then it's like big waves. It's like when there's a big storm and the big waves, if you know how to surf, then you're in for a treat. And if you don't know how to surf, you're gonna get slammed. And so this is what they call Kali Yuga. This time is important to really have to stay in shape, because it's big waves. The big waves are coming. And it's exciting. It's a wonderful time to be here. But these are challenges, so all we can do is see. I think as a society, more and more people are waking up to the fact that the phone is, that people feel empty, right? We have so much, we're constantly, so many responsibilities and all these connections and everything, but it's somehow it's not fulfilling. And so more and more people spend time in nature and talk with their family and play. This playfulness, I think, also. Community, and I think playfulness also. We become as adults very serious, and it's a facade of seriousness, but it's a very, it's a kind of contraction. And so then we stop breathing properly, and our blood's not flowing properly, and we become, it's like a holding back. And so that kind of wild, primal, playful, joyful, like it all comes together. So if we're repressing that, then we're repressing also the creative, alive, this childlike essence. So my feeling, my understanding, now I'm 44, I started this when I was younger, but is that I feel like a child. We're all children, I'm sure. This is nothing, 40 years, 80 years, 100 years. So since I know I'm still a child, then I don't have to be hard on myself in that way. And as a child, I'm sure this is my classroom every moment, every day I'm learning so much. It's become more and more exponential, especially since leaving the school. I did training in university. I started my doctorate. I was in theoretical linguistics, very, very academic. But since then, I'm learning infinitely more each day. And my feeling is that learning is joyful. To learn is a joy, especially learning about life, about myself, not just like studying ancient Greek history or something like this, but the learning like that brings me into deeper connection with life, then it brings me so much joy. And so yeah, part of the question is how to be less controlled by the phone. But other part of the question is, when I'm less controlled by the phone, what will I do? What do I do with my time and my energy? How do I spend my time and my energy? How can I use yoga or meditation to help let go of a person in my past? So, we don't use yoga and meditation for the past. You need to use yoga and meditation to help you be with the people that are in your present. Yoga and meditation is to bring you into the present. When you're present with yourself, when you're present with the life, with the nature, automatically the past is gone. Right? The problem is too much attention to the past, attachment to that. Redirect that attention to this moment. The practice will bring you into this moment. Then you can pour your energy into this moment, the people, the relationships, the activities that you're engaged in, to be alive in this moment. When you're alive in this moment, I guarantee that you forget whatever other moment. So the problem is our approach generally is like, I don't want that. How to get rid of that? as a result, what we're doing is we're feeding that with our energy. We're watering that by thinking about it. Whether we like or don't like, to direct our attention to that is feeding that. Whatever we like, we feed. Whatever we don't like, also we feed that with our energy. So what we need to feed is the present moment. When you're really in the game, playing a sport, you're not thinking about the last game or the next game. You're fully in that moment. To bring that full aliveness into each and every moment. Because say you get rid of that person, then another person's coming, another problem in the past. It's never ending. So the solution is nothing to do with the past. Radical presence. Imagine how many times have you eaten a food? So many times. Even in the last 3 or 4 months, you're eating so many times. Do you remember what you ate last week for lunch on Tuesday? Right? We eat and sometimes it's disgusting, or we eat and it's wonderful. But then you have to forget about it. You have to release it. Otherwise, you're never able to enjoy this next meal. But we're still all the time trying to eat yesterday's meal. You eat it, you go to the toilet, you flush it. And that essence remains, that essence is there. But if we never release, if we're just holding on, especially to the negative things, then we feel very uncomfortable. So it's like constipation, a kind of constipation. So through the daily practice of yoga, breathing, meditation, recommendation is every day, like you brush your teeth every day, the same way every day. Take a shower every day. Brush your teeth, take a shower, change your clothes every day. So every day, clean your body, heart, and mind with a simple practice. Simple practice. Everyone wants to show off. We don't need to exercise our egos. We do that all day, every day. The yoga is like cleaning. You clean your heart, you clean your body, you clean your mind, then you feel clean, okay. So recommendation is the same practice at the same time, in the same order, every day. So if I have 30 minutes, then I can do about 6 postures, each one 1 minute. Some have 2 sides that take 2 minutes, and then I like 30 seconds in between to absorb. So about 6 postures. I do recommendation to choose the 6 important ones, do them every day, in the same order. Use a timer, it's 1 minute, then put 1 minute, and you go for it. The timer will help you to be responsible. Otherwise, I don't know. Use the timer. And then it's also deep meditation on what is time. Because 1 minute sometimes feels like 10 minutes, sometimes feels like 10 seconds. Why? You have to experience again and again, what is time? What is time and what is timelessness? What is physical time? What is psychological time? So many things to explore in the subconscious, in the unconscious, in emotions, in the past, everything. So if you have extra time, you can do more postures. No? But at least every day you have a core that you know you can do by yourself, no problem. Then breathing. We're doing these 3 breathing practices. These are great. 1 minute, 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes. Use a timer, you do it. And then meditation, okay, 15 minutes you put on the timer, or 10 minutes you put on, and then leave it aside, and you sit. Then the timer goes off, you get up, and you go on with your day, you forget about it. And then the next day you repeat. And do this again and again. The recommendation is start with a 40-day challenge. Every day for 40 days, you do your practice, and then you check it off. And then see how you feel after this time, during this time. Observe. Not about the practice. Your practice will get better if you do it sincerely every day. But it's not about that. No, the key is how you feel in your daily life. This aliveness, you feel more at home within yourself, You're kinder to yourself, kinder to others, less triggered by things, and more creative, more flexible in being able to adapt to changes in expectations, these kinds of things. This is the magic of yoga. Even I want to stop using this word. It's become like a dirty word. Everyone's misunderstanding. What were the experiences which made you start on your spiritual path? Good question. I don't know. I don't remember being very young. I don't remember before like 7 or 8 or something. Though my mom said I was always estranged, like I was mature for my age or something. I was playing classical music when I was younger, and I just felt that there was something more. I don't know, it just felt like there was more. Suburban America in the 80s, and it was just like, I know there's something more. And then I had that mentor, like I said, when I was younger, 14 or 15, who was really switched on. He had been with Chogyam, and Chogyam was a wild, for those who know, Chogyam Trungpa was a very, very high Rinpoche who was completely wild. He has this tradition of crazy wisdom. He was fierce, and he died very young, and was always drunk, and would just go for days and hours and months and years. And Pema Chodron is one of his most well-known students, and she's still alive, and I recommend reading all of her books. Paige just brought them back from the United States. So skillful in her way of teaching how to use emotions, like the usefulness of emotions like fear, insecurity, all of these things. And so he really planted some seeds, or he watered some seeds that were already within me. And when reading these books, it was just like, gosh, this is it. And then I knew I had to leave the United States. And so I wanted to go to Europe, and my parents were like, they didn't think there were any good universities in Europe. Ridiculous. And so a compromise, okay, I'll go to Quebec, I'll go to Montreal. And then when I was there, within the first year, I was initiated in the traditional path of yoga. And it was really clear. But it was like I'd been waiting for it or something. And I was really ready and open. I never had any need to do any career or fulfill any kind of family obligation or anything. Also, my parents got divorced when I was young, when I was 13, and it was really ugly. My dad was a lawyer, and so I was in the middle of all this. And so it was like the kind of attachments to family and people. And so I was able to really harness my energy and put into music and learning, and then the path. And so that allowed me to move to a different country and not be attached to any kind of culture. I have a great relationship with my family and now. But I feel like those things really allowed me to be all in on the path from the beginning. And when I was 19 and going at it, I was my teachers and stuff started when they were 4 or 5, and I was like, oh my God, I've wasted my whole lifetime. And so I was really for about a decade playing catch up, where I was spending many hours. That was my only focus and intention, and so it's hard to say, but there was always some calling, and I was never satisfied with what I was, I wasn't rebellious in that way, but I just knew that there was something more. And I'm grateful to be here now in Cambodia, because it would be really impossible to do this anywhere else. Do you sometimes feel like you don't want to do yoga or meditate one day? Do you even don't do it then? So, one aspect of yoga is the training, right? Is doing the yoga postures, doing the breathing practice, doing meditation practice, doing chanting. I'm doing hours of chanting or puja, studying the teachings. All of these are practices. But then the real yoga is this blossoming and connection with life moment to moment. And so that yoga is like it's not an activity, but an awareness. And so that, Aurobindo said all of life is yoga. Like this whole blossoming of life and the spinning of the planets, everything, this is the yoga of the universe. Yoga is like the Dharma. It's just the rhythm of existence. And so to be in tune with the rhythm of existence, then there's no, there's only that. Maybe I have a laziness or different qualities which keep me from wanting to be in tune with life. But I grew up, like I said, as a musician, like high-level classical music. And so of course I want to be in tune. Of course I want to play in tune with the orchestra. Of course I want to play my part. And so I never, but does that mean it's not a rigid, strict rule, like, oh, I have to do this every time and like that. It's not it's a little more free than that. But there were years where it was, like without question, because you have to be, you want to train and attain a high level in a sport, in a music, in an art, anything, you have to be rigorous. You have to be regimented. You can't allow these lazy tendencies, everything. So it requires that kind of dedication and commitment and diligence on the path. At the same time, the real yoga, the real meditation is not like, okay, yoga time, let's put it, I'm going to do my yoga. It's that commitment to life. And so, for me it's unique because I'm living this, 365 since, I don't know. I moved into the one community when I came back from Brazil in 2003. And so since that time, it's been like it's not like a job where there's like times, it's like continuously. And so for me, there's no choice. There's like my existence revolves around that. My home, my meals, every aspect of my life. So I feel really fortunate because if I were alone now, living in an apartment somewhere at the beach by myself, would I be able to maintain the same rhythm? It's tricky, it's challenging. It's easy to get distracted by the phone and by the people around and by so many things. So I think that for me personally, it was very useful to step away from society for a time, right? In order to incubate, in order to allow for that necessary process of dying and being born. It's difficult to do when you're surrounded by people and the past and all the triggers in the same place. So I think it's great, to go on retreat or to go away for a period of, months, like several months, 6 months to a year at some point, to really cleanse and purify and get in tune with oneself. Because we're so affected by the energies around us, unimaginably. We're affected by the patterns and not just our own thoughts and emotions, but that which is surrounding us and the environment and the habits and all of these things. So for sure, periods of silence, periods of fasting, periods of aloneness, periods of getting away from humans and going into nature. All of it is really, really important. Could you tell us a little bit about the 3 people and the altar in the hall, living saints? It's hard to... So Kunamai Amma, I'll see her in just a week. When she was 18 or 19, and she went to this one town where I will be tomorrow, by the sacred mountain Arunachala, and she went into some trance and was carried and ended up in the middle of the forest. And when they woke her up and brought her back, something had shifted in her. She was about to go to school to be a doctor. She came from a very, very wealthy family. And they took her back, and she refused to eat. She refused to study. She said, "I'm going to go for meditation in the forest nearby." And they're like, "No, you can't do that." And so for months this went on, and then her father said, okay, I'm going to buy the forest, we'll build a fence, because there are tigers, this is wild, this place in India. And so she continued, she wouldn't leave her room, almost a year, and then her father passed away, and she just got up and walked into the forest, and she spent 10 years there. And there are many stories. They would go and sometimes look for her for weeks. She said she didn't eat or sleep. All the animals were at her feet. This is wild stuff. But the yogis are living in another dimension. And then she came out in the late 80s, early 90s. I met her in 2005. And she's been sharing these teachings. So many miracles around Amma. But I have the books of her teachings. She's been traveling the world and doing retreats and meditation and training people in this. But they're living in such another dimension. To be around the great sages, it's like you can't even think. Your mind can't even. They have such a strong presence that it's like a different world. And because they're in this very, very pure state, then it like within us we have that same pure essence. And so when you come in contact with that, it starts to awaken that within you. And so it's simultaneously like lifting you up into that higher version of yourself, but by pushing out all this heavy darkness and all this stuff. So it's radical. Being in the presence of the great sages, there's nothing like it that I've experienced. And some people like movie stars or rock stars, and they'll go and wow, like this. But the power of the sages and the saints is unlike anything else. And so for me, in my path, these last 25 years, the practice of yoga and meditation is equally as important as the contact with the sages and saints. And I've had the great fortune to be with many, many different sages. And often it's just like sitting by them and not talking directly with them, not personal attention, but just to be in that, it's like an ocean of love. Amma's pictures on the right, the hugging saints. Her story as well. I have her biography written by the yogis. You read these things, it's unimaginable, her life. And you can still go and visit her. She's now like 73. And she's coming out every day. She's leading the chanting for 2 hours. Then she leads the meditation, and then there's a talk, then the chanting, and then she's giving darshan, where she embraces people and whispers the mantra into their ears. It used to be like 7,000 people a day. She'd see 10,000 people a day. The big programs are 30,000 people. She'll go for 40 hours straight, taking 3 or 4 or 5-minute breaks. And at the same time that she's doing this, they're playing the bhajan. She's directing so many organizations. It's like superhuman feats, the things that we see in the TV. But there are great sages and saints at the same level as the Buddha and Jesus that are alive today and have been alive continuously since the whole progression of humanity. So often we think of the sages and saints as like thousands of years ago. So it makes it kind of inaccessible, but there are so many great sages and saints that are alive now and have been. And so we can read about their lives. It's pretty fantastic. But what I suggest, if you feel the calling, is to go and to sit with the sages. Many of them will travel at times through Europe or through the West, or you can go to India. But for me, that's been really important. I can't say enough. No matter how much I would say, it would never be anything. It would be a tiny drop. For me, that's as vast as my experience with the different aspects of yoga and the Vedas and all of this. Nothing compares to being in the presence of the sages and saints. Can you tell me more about Amma and your relationship with her? Yeah, the spiritual mother. See, at first, we think the Guru is outside, but really then they point us back to the inner truth. But it's Yeah, it's hard to talk about that relationship. Really, I never wanted to any of this. I just wanted to stay in India and to be at the feet of my teachers. I never expected to have any of this responsibility or to be transmitting the teachings. So my whole kind of orientation is like to offer this as service to my gurus for everything that they've given to me. So kind of like my life and the work I'm doing is like a service to Amma. Yeah. Sneaky clocks. So take a moment to come back to center. Like a ready position. If you play tennis or you've ever watched tennis, when the serve is going to come, you have to be ready. Ready means grounded, but relaxed, focused, listening, quiet. So you have to have the same ready position for a present moment. You have to know what that feels like when you're locked in. Your spine, your shoulders open, your mind focused, your breathing synced. A kind of quietness in the pressure, not too much pressure like that. You feel it, feel it. Keep paying attention. You have to learn to feel it. You have to pay attention. In order to pay attention, you have to be quiet. To be quiet is so beautiful. When you're quiet, then the real beauty can express itself. We're using so many words because we're insecure, so many thoughts because we're disconnected. So establish this connection. Give priority to that. Give importance to that, even just for a few days, for a few weeks. And then see, does it make a difference in your daily life? Does it make a difference in the quality of your life? Investigate it. Investigate yourself. But if you come to the conclusion that the thoughts won't work, then you must shift some energy into presence. So this is a yoga to train your nervous system, your biology, your breath, your senses, your mind, to be in a state of connected, deep presence, radical aliveness. That radical aliveness is spontaneous, unexpected. It's not like, oh, I'm like this, I do this, I'll do that. No. It's alive. You're alive. The rules are for the past. So don't be stuck in the cage. This is why we need to train. We'll close chanting, Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sit up tall, close your eyes and look up. This looking up is so important. It seems very insignificant or inconsequential, but what you're doing is, it's like you have the circuits, and when you look up, certain connection is made such that you're tickling your pineal gland to look up. Inhale deeply. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.